Welcome to the Juice Consumer Direct Podcast. I'm Carson Poppinger, and today we're joined by Richard Steeves, who is the SVP of Global Partnerships at LivePerson, and he's also served in roles over his 20-year career with Dell, Cisco, and VMware, and similar roles with partnerships. And so it's a pleasure to have him here with us today.
Excited to be with you, the team, and looking forward to the conversation here today.
Rich, do you want to give us is it okay if I call you Rich?
Rich is preferred. Richard's the escalation name if you need to use it halfway through the conversation.
Okay.
We'll keep things mellow today.
That's right.
Rich it is.
Okay. Well, great to have you, Rich. Do you want to give us a little bit of a background in your role and in what you handle at LivePerson?
Yeah, I've got the great honor of leading and shaping LivePerson's global ecosystem. And that's a range of strategic partnerships that drive kind of end-to-end solutions with brands around their CX investments and capabilities, global SIs, BPO businesses, all of this in the context of, as I came in just about a year ago at this point, to say, how do we take a company that's been well known and established in this space for upwards of 30 years at this point and really think differently given some of the market trends and transitions that are occurring? Who are the type of highly skilled, highly capable partners that are helping to shape what that transformation means and deliver more meaningful business impact and outcomes for them, and do it in a way that drives obviously profitability and growth back for LivePerson. So yeah, couldn't be prouder. It's been a great career along the way. And probably in the last 3 years, and I know we'll touch on this in the conversation here, between Equinix most recently on the infrastructure side, and then here at LivePerson, really shaping what AI, Gen AI, and agentics now mean in the context of the enterprise.
That's great. And we've had a great experience working alongside LivePerson with one of our partnerships, a client that we service using LivePerson. And it's been a great experience, great to get to know the technology more and see, a company that's been around for so long and how you've adapted and developed and you continue to evolve and in a space that's just constantly evolving very fast right now. So.
Yeah, something that I've appreciated about working with the LivePerson team is that the LivePerson team really understands that the whole purpose around these AI-driven solutions are to provide a better experience for the customer. I think oftentimes there is a bit of a stigma with decisions made around AI that they are prioritizing things other than customer experience or sales outcomes, business outcomes, profitability, cutting costs, you name it. But what's been really cool for me to watch is as we've been, working together is the approach that your team is taking. I've spent some time with some of your sales engineers too, and their whole thing is, hey, whatever we build has to be the best outcome for the business and for the customer. Otherwise, none of it matters. Yeah. So what's your approach to that as you're building out these solutions and you're looking into market expansion? How has that kind of shaped your approach?
Yeah, I think to your point, first and foremost, thank you for that. We really pride ourselves on the experience that we're trying to drive in our partnerships as well as with our partners to ultimately to the brands, and really focus on an outcome-based approach in discovery and understanding how we can together, deliver more meaningful, measurable impact and ROI back for the brands. But it all comes back to, as you were starting to tease this out, the really unlocking the power of conversations themselves, irrespective of where they start between an end customer and a brand, and orchestrating these seamless experiences across whether it's a digital channel, a voice channel, whether it's with a human agent interacting in that context, or maybe it's with a trusted conversational AI, a bot. Orchestrating all of that together in a more meaningful, more seamless experience, so that at the end of the day, it's like when I pick up the phone and I call, a brand, a contact center, or an escalation needs to happen, I want them to know me, know my experience and what my expectations are, and weave me into the right channel for the resolution that I'm looking to solve for. And that's where, again, I think that long history of LivePerson, starting off first in chat, then in messaging, then going into, machine learning shape of conversations into AI, agentics, and beyond. That's really a lot of the background and the pride that we have in what we're able to deliver for those brands.
Let's talk about that evolution a little bit. You mentioned,
Yeah.
ML, machine learning, and conversational AI and agentics. Let's talk about that a little bit and maybe some of the context around that.
Sure. Yeah, it's a remarkable time. I mean, I always kind of pinch myself. I feel so grateful that we're in the space that we're in, and that we've had, hopefully you guys feel this too, like the types of careers with the type of disruption and innovation that's happened in, my career, I think has been just absolutely remarkable. Customers are experiencing them. Those brands are experiencing those trends and transitions. And so for us in the CX space, where LivePerson has really, led is, if we think about it in, the understanding of, a conversational growth path that maybe started with the intent of a customer of what they were looking to do, and it solved a point task, to then weaving those into much more orchestrated conversations of where are they in their journey with a brand, and what could we do to help influence and shape their next decision or outcome with that brand. All of these are now being powered by changes and transformations in the technology themselves. And so for us most recently, and I know we're experiencing, some of this together, if we think about that kind of crossing of the Rubicon, moment of Chat GPT, 18, 24 months ago, I think at this point, it really opened up in the imagination for a lot of companies who are trying to engage more meaningfully in experiences with their end user customers. How can we unlock that potential and do it in a more seamless and orchestrated way? And so I think what we've seen up until this point is like a lot of piloting, a lot of innovation, some of that internal agent facing, not yet quite external customer facing, but we're starting to see that transition. And the other big change I would say that I think we've seen over particularly the last 6 to 12 months is the movement from solving individual pain points or intents to creating these kind of seamless generative based outcomes through the investments in Gen AI and agentic platforms and capabilities. So really incredible environment right now, which is changing certainly the contact center, changing the way that brands interact over the lifespan of their customer engagements, and really ripe for innovation and reinvention of how those brands think of their CX investments.
Yeah, absolutely. We've talked a little bit about on our podcast here how, the evolution of the IVR, go back 30 years and companies were using IVRs to sort of engage with customers and allow them to try to find the right information by going through a series of menus and trying to push buttons
a
and
pick your own adventure book. You don't really know where you're going to end up, but you turn the page.
But like where things are going with conversational AI and allowing, meeting the customer where they're at and giving them the information they want access to in a real natural and way that, the consumers enjoy interacting with, as opposed to like the IVR situations, which kind of frustrated a lot of people. So,
well, I think in the past where there was so much labor associated with manning those IVRs, there was we talked to a CMO of someone of a partner that we know, and he called it customer entrapment, where deliberately there is an attempt or an effort to prevent that customer from getting to a human because there's cost associated with that. Yeah. And with a lot of these solutions, I mean, that's a very, very frustrating place to be as a consumer, as a customer.
Missed opportunities too for the company itself.
100%. And it doesn't build any sort of brand loyalty at all. And I think that one of the nice things about your platform, and you could probably talk a little bit more about what exactly your platform does, is that it is able to really put these people in these queues that are going to be most beneficial to them and the business. So there's business rules set around it, but at the same time, it's prioritizing the need of that customer. So
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just to give that kind of real world example, I think you're right that when we think about the decision tree driven IVR experience of the past, no longer are, most consumers willing to navigate those types of experiences. And those, to your point, cost is a major driver for some of the decisions that were placed there. But what if we could change and transform that experience? What if we could bring the customer the information that they're looking for in a more seamless and elegant way? And what if it's integrated into whatever conversational flow that they're engaging with that brand along the way? So for me, the example of something powered by the LivePerson platform is, as a business traveler, back in February, this became very real, where I'm trying to rush home to be with my family, to start a vacation. And of course, on business travel in Nashville, it snows, right? Which it almost never does. And Nashville airport, shuts down. As a loyalty member with one of our most trusted brands, I received proactive outbound notification via text. My app was aware of the change in the transition. I also had the ability to route to an agent who had my entire, history of their engagement through that loyalty brand, and they were able to seamlessly transition me to a better flight option that got me home on time. Right? It's the classic, get home in time for the holidays. But those kind of experiences are repeated time and again. So if I'm a fashion retailer, if I take the example of like a Burberry or a Tiffany's, maybe they know me as, I'm a last minute Larry who forgets to buy, a gift for my wife on her birthday, but they've got all of this rich data that's sitting. Maybe it's in their CRM system. Maybe I purchased online, or maybe I've gone into a physical store. Who's going to bring all of that experience and data, in disparate data points together, into an understanding of what the potential, brand opportunity is with that client to maximize certainly my satisfaction, making sure that I get a gift on time, and doing it in a way that's really tailored. I've bought a Paloma Picasso, bracelet in the past, and maybe they're recommending a ring, as a complement to that. It's that type of really informed, really seamless, experience that every customer wants to have with brands that they are going to be loyal with. And that's the type of capability that the platform itself provides.
Yeah, that's really proactive versus, the old reactive process. And then the experience that you outlined with the flights. I mean, we've all sort of been through that where, there's a cancellation or a delay and you're like, this is just going to be a domino effect. And, not only do I have this problem, there's hundreds and potentially thousands of other people that have the same issue. So the systems get overwhelmed and they're, and then you're just sort of like, just stuck, and if there can be a proactive outreach and planning and technology can take over and say, hey, I know where you're at and I know where you're trying to get. And we found an alternate route. What an amazing experience that can be for people instead of such a tough one.
If it starts with the gate agent, and then I have to go to a ticket counter, but I'm not able to resolve my issue or challenge there, and so I need to call. I think we became accustomed and then frustrated in the past of these disconnected experiences where we had to start again at the beginning, right? What you remember in loyalty reward, number, what challenge are you experiencing today? How can I'm walking up and I flash my app. They know who I am immediately, and they're able to resolve more rapidly the challenge. Now, again, not every flight is going to bring you home in the real world, but the fact that I didn't have to begin that journey again on my app or on the web or by going to the ticket counter just led to a much better relationship I had with that carrier. And it ultimately, in that example, really helped to resolve, a real issue if I had not shown up on time.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think that there's a real play here for like the consumer direct marketing space. I know you do a ton with like
Yeah.
mortgage companies, banks, and large institutions that they are not just striving to, service that customer, but to provide them a customer that makes them repeat customers, whether that's a mortgage servicer or maybe they are acquiring new customers. We've seen your software enable our team to perform their jobs at a much higher level too. because
Yeah.
now instead of just, pushing people into a queue to be serviced, what our setup on our partnership looks like is actually LivePerson handles everything up to a point of escalation. And at that point where it can no longer handle those activities, it's handed off to a human that then takes all of that integrated data, which is so, so important, and picks up right where that software left off with record of everything that has happened up to that point, and creates a wonderful sales qualified opportunity. So how have you seen your technology specifically in the consumer direct space change customer experiences?
Yeah, I think it's a great call out, and again, a great example of what we're accomplishing together, which is really exciting. So for LivePerson, if we're working with over a third of the Forbes, most valuable brands, over half the global telcos, more than half the airlines, more than, I think it's upwards of 40% of the the telco, heavily focused in industries perspective, in banking and financial services, consumer retail. So heavily invested in that. Certainly in the CPG space, a lot of work going on in that regard. I think a lot of the same, opportunities and challenges surface in those environments. And what we look to do is bring a real industry-based knowledge and expertise to the problem. We've got, folks who are deeply knowledgeable in healthcare or in, banking and financial, or in the retail services space. We engage, we talked about at the beginning, in a real discovery-led, inquisitive, process of kind of where are they today, what are the challenges that they're working through, and then when it comes down to the fun, the recommendations, I think you're right. What we're able to blend is fundamentally an open platform strategy that meets customers and brands and enterprises where they are with the technology investments that they've made to date. It applies a unified workspace for the agents who are receiving all of these, it's coming on a WhatsApp or an Apple Business Messaging, or it's coming in through text or in a web app, experience, or brings all of that into a workspace that then, brings capabilities like an agent co-pilot, maybe a translate experience. Maybe it's providing next best recommendations. Or to your point, I think the real power of it is the analytics engine on the back end that also identifies next best recommendation, which knows and understands its limitations within the platform itself, and where it can route more realistically to an agent who can better qualify, in this example, the opportunity. So what we tend to see is that, if we take the example of like cart abandonment, and online sales and transactions, on average, what we're seeing is over 30% improvement on the sales side and after hours transactions, but through the adoption of the platform, just by creating that kind of connected and seamless experience across. So I think those examples keep surfacing time and again. So if we can do it in a way that kind of meets the customer where they are in their channel of choice, bridges all of those experiences together, and then can route them to an agent who is then empowered with the right tools and the capabilities to take that customer from where they are to where they're looking to go, that's a pretty powerful way to deliver on a better outcome, improve your experience, and hopefully, at the end of the day, drive better revenue at a lower cost.
Yeah, you mentioned something early on that, we live in a time that's so disruptive, and that you're grateful to be in a time when there's so much disruption and advancement and changes. I mean, 5 years ago, we were all talking about, hey, how do we get omni-channel? How do we communicate with the customer in the way that they want to communicate when they want to communicate? And now it's predicting. It's not just reactive. It is now a predictive method of, well, this is what is going to be best for the customer, and these are the tools that we can use to build these decisions to create a customer experience. And I think it's so interesting. Where do you think it goes from here? Like in 3 years, when you look back, what do you think has happened?
I think with the pace of innovation that's happening right now, I would say the crystal ball is maybe murkier now than it has been that far out, which is remarkable.
3 years. 3 years is a lifetime.
3 years is a lifetime
with how things are moving right now. Yes.
but a few things that I would say seem to be like the trajectory that we're on. So I would say we're at this moment where we've effectively been able to take these kind of legacy systems of record, bring them together to systems of engagement, and then create the opportunity to orchestrate across that. And so I think for the enterprises who have made investments in a workforce management or a CRM or through their digital assets and estates, we're able to bring those together and help a customer's journey kind of across that. Great, check. I think we now have AI and agentic capabilities that are bringing a level of reasoning into the equation that are helping to provide either coaching to an agent in call. They're doing a better job of identifying intents that have empathy and can route to the right channel for resolution. I think that's getting better. I think that leap from a reasoning engine to an intelligence that starts to bridge, not just within the client's, infrastructure and their estate and technology stack, but really thinks more broadly about multiple influences that may be impacting a consumer's journey and how they may be looking to interact with the brand, either reactively or proactively. I think that notion of moving from reasoning to true intelligence is that journey that I think will go on over the course of the next 3+ years.
Yeah, as I think about, you mentioned airlines, and I think about, my experience when I have one of those issues, and I outreach to the airline that I always travel with most of the time. And, there's a way I interact with that airline that I can think of. I'd much rather chat with one of their people than jump on and wait in a queue and wait to speak to someone, because you go through and have to, it's just I just prefer the chat experience more. But
Yeah.
when I do chat with them, a lot of times I spend, probably the first 5 to 10 minutes, I'm logged in under my account, yet I still have to tell them my confirmation number and my flight plan and all that kind of stuff. And it's like you mentioned, all that's tied in with all the CRMs and
Yeah.
workforce management. They have that data, but they're just not leveraging it the right way. And so then I have to go through this experience of giving them the information that they technically already should have, and they should know me and where I'm going and what my flight confirmation number is and all that. And so there's a lot of advancement that can still happen there that probably will happen very quickly over the next few years, I'd imagine, because companies are realizing that they already have that information, and let's make that experience better. Right.
Well, and those values that you're talking about, that having the customer information readily accessible and having histories and having really a unified platform pulling in data from all of these disparate systems is a principle that we talk about all the time in our efforts with our partners. We need to be integrated with every point, every touch point within that sales process to know what is happening. And you mentioned building intelligence. If you don't have that data in each of those touch points, it's impossible to have the intelligence necessary to make the right decisions and to route them to the right people and to use the correct scripts and to send them to the correct sales agents. All of these things require that intelligence in that data. And I think you're right. When I look forward, decisions, it will be table stakes that you're using some form of AI in the workplace. Everyone will be doing it. And many of these models are so readily accessible. I mean, I can get on and have a supercomputer in my hand to accomplish incredible things. But what will really set apart and be the competitive advantage is the utilization of those tools that are readily accessible and how you harness that power, how you harness all of those little disparate pieces of data to create a solution that prioritizes that customer experience and the business outcome.
Unification. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carson.
So I was just saying unification of all those systems and everything. So
Yeah.
I think that's exactly where I was going, is that I think what we saw over the course of the last couple of years were really great point solutions of here's my agent that can provide an agent assist for translate, right? I have a call center that is based in India. primary, language of the agents is Tagalog, and they're interacting with US-based contacts that are speaking English and Spanish predominantly. Like being able to provide that point capability, all right, kind of check in the box. There were some, some tough steps in that, but we've kind of solved that. We want to provide, PII redaction in conversations. And so if you're chatting and you need to provide, secure content and information, payments, things like that, we've got an agent or a bot that will do that. I think it's exactly what you're describing, though, which is how do you orchestrate all of those capabilities into a seamless experience for a consumer where it's contextually appropriate, where it has a history. You mentioned the conversational history, that it's able to draw insights from that history and provide an intelligent recommendation on what comes next. So to your point, don't ask me, the 10 data points you need to progress to the next step. I've already given you in the conversation 7 of them. Just validate the next 3. Hey, Rich, I also just need to double check your date of birth instead of asking me, name, date, serial number, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think, we're in a business of people right now. We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of agents that are representing our partners, and that are, we really set ourselves apart as a white glove service for our partners. And everything that we do is trying to prioritize the sales experience that customer is having.
Yeah.
And in conjunction with what LivePerson is doing, it's really like a PB&J where we're prioritizing the right things, leveraging the correct technology to get to the correct outcome. That's where we intersect. And that's, I think that's a really big recipe for success, because, I think there will come a time where there's such adoption of AI and being willing to communicate and do everything through technology, but there will always be a need for a human at some point.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of I think all of us as a society, the enterprise, and as, as brand owners, yourselves, I think we're all working through those as like big kind of, questions that we've got to answer. What I see in the most innovative brands, though, is that they're looking to take agents and not transition them out. They're looking to transition them to be super agents. They're higher value, more impactful, more nuanced engagement that could be better in the context, in your example, of what's the voice that brand is trying to communicate, and try to secure that next best, lead or opportunity on their behalf. So that's what we're seeing, is this mixture of, it's described as the human in the loop conversation, but what we're seeing generally right now is a much more widespread adoption of AI and Gen AI. Those capabilities are unlocking capacity within the call center for those agents to interact at a higher level in faster time at a higher NPS than if they didn't have that underlying capability supporting those conversations. That it's the better together conversation, your PB&J example. That's what we see in the kind of human and agent, experience.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that's something that we were just talking about this morning as well. Jacob and I, we were having, a chat about how we've always sort of operated Squeeze as a lean, organization, making sure that we have the right people in there that are highly capable, that can be very efficient in whatever task or project or, thing we're managing. The management team that we have operates very lean. Being able to take these tools that are available now and make them even more productive and efficient, that's what I'm interested in as the CEO at Squeeze, is how do we make our team even more productive, even more efficient, make their jobs easier, give them more autonomy to do, things that are going to help move the business forward by freeing up some of the tasks and things that take it off their plate. That's really what's exciting for me.
Yeah, I was playing around with one of those desktop agents this morning, and I was inputting some of our juice content, and I was seeing what it would provide me as a result, and it pulls up like a remote desktop and shows me how it's. I mean, it is incredible.
Well, explain the prompt. Explain the prompt that you gave it.
Okay. So I have some like one pagers that I've done that we've done as a team. I shouldn't take credit for that. That are marketing team has put out that are really, really great from a brand perspective. And what I'd like to do is create some one-pagers for our different episodes and our different topics,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we cover such a wide range. And wouldn't it be great to just have a one-pager that I could send to different ICP,
Mhm.
people? And so I put in a podcast episode, and I said, okay, this is my target audience. This is who I think is going to be reading this. This is what I think the main themes are going to be. Create me a one-pager. Oh, and by the way, make it look like these other one-pagers that I've done. And I sat there
And
I
the
just
branding on
watched
our
it.
website too.
Yeah, and I threw in our website and I said, here's some more branding.
Yep.
And I just sat there and I just watched it start coding. I'm like, this is absolutely incredible. If we can leverage these technologies in a way that is a competitive advantage, you're so far ahead. On the other hand, I think that there is a real danger in being overly dependent on this technology. This morning we had our ops meeting, and I gave the motivational minute, and I talked about a book called David and Goliath. It's by Malcolm Gladwell.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah, it's a Malcolm Gladwell book, and it talks about how oftentimes too much, like leaning into your strengths too much, can end up becoming like a dependency or a crutch. So too much of that is not good. So an example would be, there's a threshold in a school class size, and beyond this size, you lose that critical mass. It's too much. So you start to lose efficiency at a certain point.
Yep.
And what we were talking about is, when you lean too much on one thing, other areas get weak. Like if I go in and I only do legs, my arms are going to get weak, or I only do arms, my legs are going to get weak. And you've got to work out all of the muscles while, so getting too dependent on a technology like this can actually cause you to miss some really important pieces of decision-making and cognition that really make you, or make the business.
I think we're all navigating that right now. I think, to your point, we're all learning the right ways to augment and complement capability, not fully kind of supplant some areas. It always requires that context, that intelligence to be applied. But you also talked about something that I think is becoming even more relevant, is this notion of, certainly prompt engineering itself as a defined discipline of being able to engage in a different way. I think it's increasing to some extent the focus on literacy, engagement, the way that system thinking can be applied. So I think, to your point, there's a way in which we have to think of the right blend to deliver the right outcome at the right time, at the right cost, for the right ROI. Those are conversations that we have, with customers together all the time. And AI, to some extent, is just one of those capabilities. I think there will be an element of this, is that an underlying capability that it will become more and more pervasive. But what we're going to see is that elevation of a different skill set. I think I've got a son, 16 years old, super smart, math, but he's also, a lot of the instruments in the background and around me are his. I want to feed that other side of him as well, that kind of creative, inquisitive intelligence that can interact and find a way to have that technology augment the outcome that he's looking for. That's the kind of, I think, the potential that we have. But I agree, always being aware of, maybe where some of the threats are in that as well.
Yeah, no, I love how when you position it as like augmenting or making super agents, or leveraging it to make you better, the 1 + 1 = 3 kind of thing. And I think that's exactly right. I've seen some people where they're completely dependent on, you get up and you're supposed to give a sermon in church or a talk in church, and you write it with ChatGPT. I think you're kind of missing the mark on what you're supposed to be doing. So not losing the essence of what you're doing, not losing the spirit of what you're doing, while also using it to augment your efforts, but not to supplant everything that you're doing.
Yeah. That's exactly it.
Well, it's been a pleasure to have you here with us, Rich. It's been a pleasure to get to know you and learn more about LivePerson and everything that you've been doing there, and where things are headed. You've been watching the Juice Consumer Direct podcast. Thanks so much for watching.
Yeah, please let us know if you have any questions, comments. We'll get to those. Rich, where can we find you if our viewers want to learn a little bit more about LivePerson?
LivePerson.com is the easiest way to reach out and engage with us. And certainly find me on LinkedIn. Happy to have a conversation and follow up from there.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Rich.